So welcome everybody to this conversation with concern. And today we're joined by Nancy Powell Eisenstadt and her brother Rick Powell, who have been long time members of the Concern Foundation. And I thought I would start with the first question. So let's go back 53 years. And there was something that was introduced in your home called Concern Foundation. Can you tell us what that was like? What you remember?
Ladies first.
Okay. So I was 10 at the time. And I just remember my parents, Joyce and Larry Powell, who were one of the 14 originals, our parents, came home. They kind of told us about this. We didn't really know what it meant. At 10, I didn't really know what cancer meant, like sadly many 10-year-olds do now. And they just told us they were going to be doing this for their friend who had breast cancer, and they were trying to raise money, and we would be involved at some point. We didn't really know what that all entailed. We didn't know that 53 years later we would still be doing it. But they were really excited about it, and that's what I remember. Rick was a little older, so he might remember more.
So, but concern was a big part of your family's life and a big part of your lives. And I know that you both got involved with the block party and helping to set up and working with the vendors and all that. So what was that like?
That part of it, from the standpoint of how important it was to my mom and dad, was very clear to all of us, including my older sister, Linda. They expected us to do whatever it took to make whatever they were going to do successful so that they could raise money and make a difference, initially for one friend that had been diagnosed with cancer. But it wasn't just, truly the block party on the street. It was getting others involved our age so that they felt like it wasn't just their kids, but others of the other 13 couples, plus many of our friends. So yeah, we rolled up our sleeves, and as I recently saw John Carroll talk about, we got trash on the street. We did whatever it took to really try to be involved with something that was so, at that moment, important to our parents.
And I think what Rick's saying, like, we made a lot of our parents' friends' kids became some of our friends because you had that bond. We were helping, everybody, our parents and everything. I mean, I remember the first party before the block party was at Al Hart's estate where Frank Sinatra was, and I remember doing stuff there. But when the block party came around, I mean, we were sweeping the streets of Rodeo Drive. We were putting, things over meters so that they had faces. We were blowing up balloons, and we all sort of got a common camaraderie, the younger people, because it's unusual that you'd be sweeping the streets and doing all the things that we were doing. And it was work. It was for a great cause, but it was also, we had a fun time with it.
Yeah, Concern was started for Beverly Woolman, a friend of your parents, but at another point in your lives, cancer entered your home as well. And your father himself was a 4-time cancer survivor, I believe.
My dad was a 4-time cancer survivor, but before my dad, his brother had colon cancer. So it entered our family much earlier than my dad's cancer. And yeah, he was a 4-time cancer survivor, and even as late as yesterday, updating a letter that I'm working on for our upcoming event, I talk about how the most important thing to my dad during his lifetime is to find a cure for cancer. And the good news is we did find and have made lots of progress in some of the diagnoses, as you know, Derek, better than I do. But it's we've got unfortunately a long way to come, and our grandchildren and their children, I think, will be fighting this fight for longer than we ever expected, as Nancy mentioned way back when, 53 years ago. But yeah, my dad fought to the end, and actually the fourth type of cancer, although his oncologist, Barry Rosenblum, said that would not get him, I think it finally did him in just from all the types of treatments that he went through.
Yeah, I think cancer, that many times of being treated with chemotherapy and radiation and the options that were out there, I think it wears the body down, you know, and it's still tough. So yes, we are making a lot of progress, but there is still way more to go. And so let's fast forward a little bit to about 1979, 1980. And what happened then? I believe your dad came to both of you and said, it's time to get you and your friends more actively involved.
Yeah, he was the president of Concern at the time. And, you know, they were probably our age at the time when he came to us, and he said, you know, we need to get the next generation going. We need somebody to take this on and follow, you know, keep it going so that we could, I mean, my dad's hope was that we'd go out of business, that we'd find a cure, and Concern would just be a name that was involved with helping to find the cure, and we were done. So anyway, he got in touch sat down with Rick and I and said, you know, maybe go through some of your friends. Derek, you were one of the friends that we brought in, and see who's interested in, you know, helping you bring in the next generation. And so I think it was 1981. We sat down for a first meeting in somebody's living room. Don't remember whose it was, and brought in our friends, and we started Concern too. The next generation.
And
Right.
as Nancy said, I mean, the rest really is sort of history. I mean, that's how the beginning of Concern 2, because our dad thought it was important. I remember him saying one other thing to me: we're getting too old to do this. We're not going to be able to do this in the future. And like Nancy said, he was younger than us, but yes, that was his wish, and we always listened to my dad's wish.
Yeah, well, look where we are today. We're still doing it, and our children are doing it. And, you know, some of us are able to bring our grandchildren around to the event so we can expose them. And, you know, it's important. We've got to keep this thing going, you know, 53-year momentum of Concern Foundation. And I don't think the organization has missed a beat. You know, I think we're as strong today as we ever were. And I think that's important.
But what Concern 2 really became, and you know this better than, you know, it was a really big social fun event with a great cause at the end of it. Some of the people knew what they were coming for the cause. Some of the people were coming to seek people, to meet people. We had a lot of people meet people and get married. We did these fantastically fun parties that were like cheap, $25 or whatever it was. And we didn't know if we could fill a room. And then all of a sudden it was like, boom. And we were the first charity to do that, second generation. We had a lot of people follow us, some successful, some not. And we had a really fun time. It was fun.
It was fun. It was groundbreaking. Like you said, there were a lot of organizations that tried to copy what we did, but there was a great formula because I think there was a passion amongst the original founding group of Concern 2 that really kept the thing driven and kept it motivated. And we did a lot of events. I remember the first meeting that I was at Children's Hospital, and we heard Stu Siegel talking about cancer, and we got an opportunity to go to the laboratory and look in the microscope, and then got an opportunity to go up to the 4th floor in the hospital and see the pediatric cancer patients. And I think that experience, I think, opened up a lot of our eyes for many of us that had never been exposed to cancer. And I think that was really, really important. So throughout Concern 2, is there any of the events that we did that sort of stand out as something that was meaningful to you, or fun, you know, the most fun that we did? Or
Well, I mean, I would say there were two different types of incredible success stories. One, and I think about it often, and I think about the music that was played a few weeks ago of Carole King, and the discussion of A&M Records, and those events on the soundstage where you worked for so many years were beyond incredible opportunities for us to not only raise money and send it to cancer research and make a difference, but like my sister said, to have fun and to put on a fun party, to create, have people come, first of all, because it was A&M Records. Not too many people had that opportunity to have charity events at A&M Records on a soundstage. But at the end of the day, no matter how much money it was, it rocked the city, and people knew and wanted to be a part of it. So that events like that, but especially A&M Records, was incredible. And I think about often as I drive down Olympic and go by the Concern office, and you go down the street and you see this venue that we had, I would call them the singles parties, that you and I and a couple of us stood at the front door to make sure everybody was approved, even though our wives were either there or not there at that time. It was
Right.
that created the hundreds and hundreds of people that became a member of Concern too for a very small amount of money. So it was, the connection of people. I would say that more than any organization, and we all know a lot of them, that got young people involved, no matter what the charity was. We were teaching people the importance, which I think is still a struggle today, that it doesn't matter how much you give, but that you give something and support that organization that's meaningful to you. So those twice a year parties that people got for that membership was very unique.
It definitely was.
And for me, listen, I was one of the single people. So, but it was, I think the first event at A&M, where we really didn't know, is anybody going to come here? We didn't know, are we going to, we were charging $50, which for our age group, I believe, was it 50 or 25? I think it was
25
It
initially.
was 25. So, but for our age group, that was a lot of money at the time, and we just didn't know, were we going to get anybody? Were we not? And we were overwhelmed by the response. And we allied with people. I mean, we got the meat, we got the food donated, we got everything, and everybody had a job, and we through that we became like allies with someone's in the kitchen, and Joanne kind of took us on and helped us, and just there were people that really loved what we were doing and helped us get move along. And then from the A&M, first of all, we would have our meetings at A&M, and those were fun, and then we'd all go out for dinner, and it was as some people would call it, an event. And then we moved to the West Side Pavilion, which also was it was our friends. It was our friend group. We would sit, we'd eat dinner, we'd go to the meeting in the little room. We had a couple of fun parties that I remember. Steve Freed running around at the Beverly Center, and those were really fun parties. And then because we kept growing, we became this huge, big organization that was running out of room for what we wanted to do. We ended up at the water garden or whatever. I mean, we just ended up at bigger venues because we became so popular. And I mean, when you think about it, and you go back and really think about it, there's nothing like that. And there never really was. And it was really, yes, there were, I would say 50% were just there for the social, but there was plenty of people there willing to dig their feet in the sand and do the work.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think that the first event that you talked about on the soundstage, I think when we didn't know what it was going to be. I think we walked away at the end of that night with about $10,000, and we thought that we had discovered America. And then over the course of the Concern to Life, I think we raised over $1 million.
Yeah.
And that $1 million was earmarked to pediatric cancer.
Right.
And it was important, the monies that we gave to Children's Hospital LA and to Children's Hospital in Cleveland, Ohio, and helped the Concern Foundation augment so that they could give more money towards adult cancers, we were able to give money towards pediatric cancer. So the dollars actually were able to go a little further.
And
But
you mentioned Stu Siegel for 1 sec at Children's
Yeah.
Hospital. I think he was so much the glue behind a lot of us. He could take cancer and make the lame person like me understand what he was talking about. And so it brought it so much more to the forefront for even the people that maybe were just there to meet somebody. You know,
Right.
you went to a thing at Children's Hospital, you listened to Stu Siegel's talk, you came out of there and it was like, wow,
right.
you
And-
know, kind of.
Yeah, and because of Stu, Concern 2 raised the first amount of money to open a brain tumor laboratory at Children's Hospital. They brought in a researcher from Texas, a gentleman named Paul Zeltzer, and we were also the first organization to fund the joint research project between Children's Hospital Los Angeles and Moscow, Russia, right after the fall of communism. So we were there, you know, we followed Stu, and I remember the night that we honored Stu. I think it was probably one of the last events that Concern 2 did. I think it was at the Hammer Museum, and Al Jarreau performed, and we honored Stu for all those years of helping to guide the organization and teach us what this was all about. You know, that was really important. But I think one of the most important things that Concern 2 did was introducing our membership and our supporters to the patients themselves, and having the events for the pediatric cancer patients and their families. And I know Debbie was instrumental in helping to put those events together. You remember when we used to, how we started that at Michelli's?
Absolutely. Those days at Michelli's, I mean, as Nancy said, certain places, certain venues, we ran out of space. Michelli's was one of those that after a while, they wanted us still to come, but we had too many people. And then, but Michelli's was great. I mean, we were in the back, not only watching the kids be entertained with the waitresses and waiters singing, but we were helping bust the tables. We were bringing the food from the kitchen. The Michelli brothers were incredible. And those were, I think we were there for at least 8 or 9, maybe 10 years before we moved to back over to Paramount, I believe. I think that was the switch.
I think you're right. Yeah, we were introduced to Michelli's, I think, originally because Annette Frank, Brian and Annette Frank were involved. And I think Annette was working with them. And that's how we got into Michelli's. And then Debbie introduced us to, I think it was called Theater West up on Cahuenga.
Right.
So the kids would come and they saw a show, and then we'd walk down the street to Michelli's and have a lunch. And then we were at the Comedy Magic Club in Hermosa Beach. Mike Lacey opened his club, and we did a event for them for Halloween. It was a Halloween event. And yeah, and you know, moving it now to Paramount Studios, where, you know, there's about 600, you know, families and parents and grandparents. I mean, it's really become, the evolution's really become something special.
And also, not forget, I mean, obviously, last few years have been a challenge, but Universal Studios with being allowed to bring the families on the lot there, and the support that we've got from Universal. So you're right. I mean, it goes forward and it goes backwards and it goes sideways. I mean, we're introducing people to get involved. We're still trying to introduce people to get involved even to this day. But the fact that we can make a difference, think about the number of years you dressed up and went to Children's Hospital during the holiday time. But you know, now we're doing it at other places, not just at the hospital. But how important it is, you know, it's like certain hospitals, I don't know if Children's actually does it, you know, they let you bring your dog and visit with the patients. Maybe they do that there, like others do. I mean, touching and being a part of somebody that's has an illness, or fortunately has survived an illness and can be well enough to come to Paramount or come to Universal, or at the time Michelli's, and it's, you know, there's just so many parts of what Concern 2 began as and what Concern Foundation is today, and touching so many people, and not just individuals, but the families, the difference that has been made in the lives of the families because of how you've been able to interact with the siblings of those families. It's very unique and unusual.
Well, I think as groundbreaking as Concern Foundation was in 1968, when the couples got together and went off on their own, they decided not to go with the American Cancer Society or other organizations, is as groundbreaking as Concern 2 was. And the innovation, the things that we were doing that nobody else was doing, I think it really set the tone, as you said, Rick, for who we are today and who we've become. So Concern 2 sort of morphed into taking over the roles and responsibilities of Concern Foundation. So what roles do you guys play in Concern Foundation today?
I just wanted to say one other thing too. I remember, and I was probably in my early 20s, that the first time I ever went to Israel, I set up with David Weiss, who was the person who our researcher that we were funding for so many years, Concern Foundation. I mean, I knew him because my parents, I mean, they loved him. And sometimes he would come out here and we'd go listen to him speak or whatever. It was easier to listen to Stu, but David was a great guy. And so I went to the lab, and, you know, I broke apart from the tour that I was on, and I went to the lab, and it was amazing. And I mean, I know that had I not been integrated into this kind of a thing with my family, it would have been nothing I would have ever done. So, I mean, a lot of people don't know about all that, the labs and all the places that we funded. Most people, you know, they don't know exactly where we were, but to go that day really meant something to me, because my whole life I had grown up pretty much with Concern. So anyway, just wanted to mention that.
No, that it is. It's important. And that's why, you know, in this new world that we're living in with this virtual model, that's why we're interviewing our researchers and we're putting them out. We're making videos and we're putting them out so that our donors and our sponsors and people can get a sense of what the organization is all about, how funding their research, paying their salaries is really important towards the advancements that are made in cancer today. And you're right, until you shake hands with a researcher and look them in the eye and understand what they're doing, what's important, you don't really get it, you know. And it's really important. You've got to touch it, you know. You've got to be a part of it. So let's talk about Concern today and your roles in Concern today, which are very important. So Nancy, your role today is, aside from helping raise money and bring in people, you help with the restaurant.
I'm the food lady. I just sort of morphed into this from, you know, Concern 2, because I had worked with some of the food vendors with Concern 2. So just sort of morphed into it and have relationships with some really great restaurants. And I was president at one point, I don't know, a few years ago, whatever. And I've just always played a role in what Concern was. And really, you know, it's really because of my parents, you know, and them instilling, I mean, this Concern Foundation was, and Rick can say, you know, knows this too, like, it just really, it's a part of who we are and who our family is. And it just, you know, certain days you say, oh my God, I got to do this, I got to do that. But at the end of the day, you say, wow, look what we did. Look at the money that we raised. And so, yes, I work with the restaurants and a lot of the food vendors. And I've developed some great relationships. I mean, you know, the Pink family has been fantastic. Factors has been fantastic. I always laugh because Toshi from Bar Hayama walked into the kindergarten class that my daughter Tori was in, and I don't know, maybe he still wishes he had the other teacher, because from then on, he was and is a huge part of our block party. The lines for the sushi are incredible. So, you know, the grill, Bob Spivak, he sat down with me and he told me how to do this, how to get the restaurants to want to come out. And also somebody, Ellen from Laurie's. early in the day. So Bob taught me how to do it, and he gave me the language to use for the restaurateurs and to get them to come. And we were so thankful for him, because really we had people on the block like, that had never been to a charity event like that. And it's not an easy setup. I mean, it's hard. I mean, we make it easy for the restaurants. Steve Freed and Harvey and those guys, my brother, they're out there. And it's hard. It's a lot of work, but the restaurants, we try to make it as good as we can for them and as easy as we can for them. And they love it. They come back year after year after year, and we're thankful for them. And like I said earlier, someone's in the kitchen. She, Joanne, Jason, they're still very involved with us. So we just have great relationships with a lot of these people. And I don't know, I'm thinking of, as I'm going, like Delicious Cookies, and just people who have been by our side. And, people love the event that we do, because it's not a chicken sit down dinner. They can go to this, various restaurants and just keep going and eating and eating and eating. And the food is a huge portion of it. So that's my big job, food lady.
The food lady. And Rick, I know you don't really play an important role in the organization. So
No, it's
He just brings the money.
yeah, I won't call myself the money man. I would just say that, fortunately, for many, many years, so many people that we all know in this community have been supportive. They realize the importance of dollars going to the bottom line for research, making a difference. And yeah, I mean, when we've had to punt again this year, Derek, as which I am certain will be a huge virtual success. I came home yesterday, tweaked the letters, and here we'll begin writing and chasing people. And it's been interesting over these last few months, because a few people have actually said, I haven't gotten any letters from you. What are you guys doing? And I said, don't worry, you're going to get the request. We're still trying to exactly determine how it's going to go down. But it's part of the blood, as Nancy said, and it's critical to. I guess if I had one wish, it would be that more of us did what a few of us do, and really get behind this and continue to find the right honorees in the future and raise more than the money that we've raised thus far, and just keep rolling up our sleeves. And it's not easy, as we all get older, to count on certain people to write those checks. But and that's why we got to keep expanding the network to raise more dollars. But besides raising the dollars and helping logistically, I just want to make sure it's still important in our community how important Concern Foundation is to all the areas that I touch, and especially with the incredible relationship that Concern has with Children's and City of Hope and other institutions, all of which I'm engaged in a different way as well. And it's special to be on those forefronts with those researchers. And it's a great place. And let's just hope that one day, sooner than we think, there'll be more cures for some of these illnesses that we are hearing about daily.
yeah, well, you're right. Concern Foundation is a family, and like you said, Nancy, we're a family of restaurants that have come out year after year and supported us. And we've had 46 block parties. We've done countless other events, people that donate their time and their services and their goods, which is amazing. Our family of donors and sponsors and supporters that come every year. And like you said, Rick, I mean, people are paying their sponsorships without having an event. I mean, we're well over $600,000 in sponsorships have already come in, and people had no idea, what kind of an event or what we were going to be able to do this year. But they know that the cause and the mission is sound, and we've stayed true to what it is that we do. We fund cancer researchers' salary to unlock the secrets to what's causing cancer, and how do we put it back into its dormant state. And I think as long as we stay true to our mission and we continue to create that community and make it a fun experience for our donors and our vendors, I think they'll continue to come back and they'll continue to support us. And we're completely thankful for that. So we talked a little bit about, the highlights of your involvement. Is there one special highlight aside from what you've already said that stands out over the last 53 years?
I would say, I'll jump in before, I'll take the final before my sister. I would say the longevity of the few that are still with us today from Concern Foundation, albeit my mom who, and Jackie Gottlieb,
Dana.
specifically, that really are still Jackie rolling up her sleeves, Dana Schwartz. But I think back of those 14 couples, and I think and see those pictures, and something we didn't touch on, but so important to Concern, is the grant process. And I see the faces of these individuals and the discussions that they had, and some of the old stuff that you pulled together, and we see some of those pictures. I think it's amazing how they began this 53 years ago and where we are today. And I guess if there was one wish or one thing that stood out, I'd love to see some more longevity from some of those families that could bring back some of the history that their mom and dads created at that time.
There's one thing that I thought of while we've been talking with Concern too, that we didn't mention. We were all like we were in our early 20s, and we all had jobs, and we were all doing this as a, secondary. And I will never forget, we were always so excited. I did the publicity, and we were always so excited when we could get something in the newspaper about our events. And one time, one of the parties at the Olympic collection that you guys were speaking of, the phone number for information ended up at my office, on my office phone number. And I remember the phone was going nuts, but boss was like, what the heck? And, but we were excited because we got the publicity. So I was just like saying, don't worry, I'll answer the phone. I'll get it. Don't worry, I'll get it. Anyway, it's fun. We all had to really jump in. I think that listen, I think for me, the events are always the most fun. The block parties, they're fun. The two events that are popping in my head right now would be when Rick and I were honored at A&M when we were very young at the sock hop. And then also a few years ago when we honored my dad as one of the cancer survivors. This organization was him. So for him to be standing up there was great. But like Rick said, now we're at the age where we got to not turn the reins over, but it would be nice to get some of the people in that we had worked with. And a lot of the kids are, definitely, our kids are definitely getting involved. I remember with the Michelli's thing, my kids were upset because they were too young. They weren't allowed to come and be in the kitchen and do all that. So, they had to wait till it was their turn. But yeah, we just want this thing to keep going. The events that now mean the most to me, I love the Paramount event with the kids. It's great. It's great to see the same kids come back year after year, which means, hey, they're making it. We've done something to help, and they're here. So I think, like Rick said, the most important thing is, we need everybody to help raise the money. It can't just be one or two people. It's got to be many people. And, I remember somebody from another organization saying to me, a cancer organization saying to me, well, why don't you just quit Concern and come to our organization? And I remember looking at her and saying, first of all, like, my family is so entrenched in Concern, I couldn't do it. But second of all, who cares who finds the cure for cancer? As long as somebody finds the cure for cancer, why can't there be more, a different organization maybe would find the cure for one type, Concern might find. Sadly, I mean, there's so much cancer that the more we raise for through other organizations and our own, somewhere down the line, hopefully, we'll be finding that cure.
Yeah, well, look, the impact of, I'll go back to Concern 2, the impact that Concern 2 had when we all started, about 50 to 60% of children that were diagnosed with cancer, leukemia in particular, were surviving.
Yeah.
Today, it's 85 to 90% plus of children diagnosed with leukemia are surviving and living normal, healthy lives. And I have to say, a lot of that has to do with the funds that Concern raised, the researchers that we supported. I think we've really had an impact in making that difference. Will cancer ever disappear? I don't think so. No one thinks that cancer is going to disappear, but cancer is manageable, treatable, and it's curable. And that's the key today. And that's what we walk away with, I think, that we have made a huge difference as a small organization that started with 14, 15 couples, 53 years ago. And here we are today having a huge impact nationwide and worldwide. So I think that's really the legacy of Concern. So just to wrap things up, and this is the question I've asked in all of the conversations. So how would you finish this sentence? Concern Foundation is.
Go ahead, Rick.
No, ladies first, absolutely.
This is really, I think, more than both of us could even imagine. And it must be more because my brother decided to let me go first so he could figure out what he was going to say.
You started first, you ending.
Concern Foundation is hopefully the lifeline that is going to help more people stay alive through all the researchers and all the people that we're funding. I think that would be that. Concern Foundation also is a huge part of my life.
Okay.
I would say Concern Foundation is a unique, special organization that has helped save many lives, and I'm hopeful will continue to be a big part of our lives and make a difference in so many other people today and tomorrow.
Well, I think you both said it all. And thank you. Thank you to Nancy and to Rick and to your dad of blessed memory and your mom who's still, helping and being involved, and Linda and your children. And thank you both for everything that you've done and for, let's keep Concern going. And like you said, Rick, let's get more people involved. Let's get more generations, and let's put ourselves out of business. So thank you both.
Conquer cancer now.
And conquer cancer now. So thank you both for doing this today. Really appreciate it.
Thanks,
Thank
Derek.
you.